Welcome, City Council. We have a couple of our compadres that are out of town. Chris Simonson and also Richard Higginson are away, and we excuse them. But for those of us who are here,
Kate Bradshaw.
Kendall-Lynn Harris.
Randy Lewis.
Millie Segura Bar.
Yes, so three council people make us a quorum, so we can proceed. This is Tuesday, July 27th, 2021. This is the work session. We started here just past 6:30, and we appreciate those of you who are here to observe, and of course we always appreciate our staff that's here to help us and kind of guide us along tonight. So I'm going to turn time over to Rebecca, who's going to talk to us about the public art update. So Rebecca, yes, we're excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. I'm excited to tell you a few updates on some things. So the first one I'm excited to tell you about is the Public Art Advisory Board. So as many as you have known, pretty soon after I began in this position, I was asked to help coordinate for the farmers market, and that has taken up my schedule these last couple months more so. So a few months ago, we had just under 20 applicants that were interested in being part of the Public Advisory Board for public art. And we will have a board of 5 members. So I began interviews just this last week and are continuing into this week to decide who will be the best fit for the board that bring different experiences, perspectives, and ideas to the table. Once we have that decision and we've had all of our interviews and have informed them, we'll hope to have one of our first meetings this next month, and we'll begin to discuss some of the main objectives for the public art program, such as the main purpose or mission that we want for the public art program, and hopefully begin the first project that we've talked about here, which is the Mice on Main. So that's the advisory board. Looking forward to that starting soon. As an update concerning the topic of displaying In God We Trust within the council members that you've expressed that you've wanted, I've been working on putting together that design and content that will be displayed on the 2 walls of the entrance of council chambers, so those 2 walls on the right and left as you enter. So this placement would allow anyone who enters to be able to see these displays. So one wall on the left as you walk in, I've been working on the placement to hang the statement In God We Trust in between the Declaration of Independence and Preamble, as we've talked about historic documents, to be there as well. And then in between, looking between 2 options, an artistic clean look of a bird's eye view of the rendering of the city, so the roads and rendering, or an artistic rendering of the new City Hall building. So wanted to see if there's any strong feelings for any of those. I'll come back to that in just a second. On the other wall on the right as you walk in will be photos of our current council members with a plaque with their name, potentially their start date of their service, and then the end date to be engraved and given to the council members at the end of their service. I think this would be a good idea for those coming in because it allows those who are coming to council meetings who may not be familiar with our council members to see who will be a part of these meetings. And a nice gift of service at the end is what I hope for. So I just wanted to know if there's any strong opinions for the artistic rendering that'll be within God We Trust with the city. So maybe a rendering of the city roads as a bird's eye view or of City Hall. Is there any strong opinions with that before I move forward?
I'd prefer the bird's eye view of all of Bountiful as opposed to just City Hall.
Great.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
That's great. Unanimous. I love those kinds of decisions.
Jeez, it's easy.
Perfect. Okay, and then the last one is an idea I'm excited to share with you that I haven't told you about that I'm calling
So Rebecca, I was just going to say one thing about the other wall. When you said you're going to put the end dates on there, try not to put them on there until we're actually ended. Okay,
correct. It will be at the actual ending of service.
I was more worried it's going to be like high school picture day where you needed like 4 retakes because you weren't happy with your picture.
I did
Okay.
cringe a little bit when she said photos of the council. Oh, shoot.
Well, you already have great photos that you've taken that are online that I think many people do use to see
These are all pretty easy
who are
there.
council members. So that's what's up for using. So the last one I want to tell you about is I'm calling the Historic Hall. So we have photos of the 29 mayors and the history of Bountiful that would fit very well alongside this north hallway that runs across the side of the chambers, outside of the chamber room. Let me see. Yeah, so I've been working with members of the Bountiful History Museum to receive photos of Bountiful City from the last 100 years that show some of these photos are just of business fronts from the last 100 years, or we've got one of the first fire departments, another of the early Bountiful High School, not an exact place that it is now, but one of the first high schools in the city, are just examples. So we're hoping I'm thinking of having the members of the mayor, all of the mayors along one side of the hallway, and then along the other side of the hallway, some of these photos with a description in chronological order down the hallway that can serve as almost an educational general of the history of Bountiful, as well as showing some respect for those that served into building the city. So I just wanted to see if you were in support of me pursuing this idea of making that hallway kind of like a history hallway for Bountiful.
I love
Any
that
thoughts?
idea. When I was at the History Museum a few weeks ago, Tom Tolman, who's a former councilman, he said, I spent all those years working on those pictures for them, so I'm hoping they're going to use them. So they would be happy. I know the history people would be happy to hear that you're thinking of putting those there, those historical things.
Yeah, Tom Tolman's actually been a really big help for me in collecting a lot of those photos.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's been great.
I like the idea of the historical photos too, so
Okay,
I think.
great.
And I think, adding plaques and descriptors so that people can appropriately place them as we grew would be interesting and handy.
Great,
I agree. I think it sounds great.
great.
Thank you.
So Rebecca has another place of referral. I know that in that big room that's kind of between the county offices, the new county offices, and the library, there's a pretty big room right in there. They have some fantastic old photos that are from Davis County in general, but there's 4 or 5 of them there that are from Bountiful, and they are really good. They may already be part of what is in our history museum, but I think some of them might not be. And so you may, they're really interesting. They're really good ones.
Yeah, that's great. Did you say that was at the library or at the county?
Well, I'm not sure if it's an actual library room or if it's a county room, but it's on the main street level, and it's right between the library and there's an entryway off the west side of those buildings, and it goes right into that room, and they've got, the whole room is historical pictures of the county, but there's some great photos of Bountiful. I think maybe you might remember that I think at a retreat, we were showing one that they were working on the roads, and when they did, they had all the kids from the school come out and help get the roads flat. You kind of remember that photo. So that's where that came from. I'm not sure that they have that, but you might want to just look because they were awesome.
That's great. I'll check that out as well. Yeah.
Great.
Along those same lines, Mayor, the Capital Preservation Board, the State Capital Preservation Board, has access to the state art collection, and usually that means, paintings and things like that, but they have historical photos, and you might want to check and see what they have in their collection that maybe is from Bountiful that we could purchase prints from, because they have a really cool collection of old photos of the state, throughout the state.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank
Good
you
idea.
for those resources. I'll check those out. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Well, Rebecca, you must love working on this stuff. This is real, this is fun stuff. Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you very much.
We love how you've hung the photos. I think all of us are really liking the photos that are around, and I know your mom came and helped you, and that's what we need, a mom that gets it straight. Gets
Yeah, it
them
takes an
really
assistant to be able to
square.
have 4 hands to put those up.
Gets them square.
She's
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
We'll turn the rest of our time for this portion of our of our city council meetings to Gary.
Thank you, Mayor. Would like to spend the next 15 minutes giving you an update on the American Rescue Plan Act and what we know about it, and some of the requests and needs that have been identified that some of that funding can be used for. Well, it's plugged in. Oh. Well, one part was plugged in.
I've got it here, and I've got this.
Needed a city
Thank you.
engineer. Now it might show up. Survey says?
Oh, that's good. No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Try door number 2.
Oh, that's good. Hey, listen, while they're working on that, did any of you come for item number 3 that got changed? That's the Bountiful City Reserve Policy discussion. If you did, that is going to happen that was changed and will be on August 9th at 5 p.m. So if any of you were looking for that discussion this evening, that won't happen tonight. Okay, good. We didn't
It's all right.
inconvenience you. We didn't inconvenience you too badly.
Yeah. Yep. It's okay. It's not that important. The video is not that important. I'm happy to just walk our way through it.
Okay.
So the American Rescue Plan Act was authorized by Congress, provided funding to cities, states, counties for a variety of uses to help stimulate the economy, to help meet needs related to impacts from COVID-19. And this Bountiful will receive $5.2 million from this, with a big asterisk. So 5.2 is what has been allocated to Bountiful. It's to be received in what they call 2 tranches, 2 allocations. The first of 2.6 we already received just a few weeks ago. The second allocation will be available a year from now, provided it's appropriated by Congress. So there's no guarantee that that second appropriation will happen. In fact, we've all been strongly cautioned to not spend more than we've actually received, just in case the second appropriation doesn't come. The uses are actually fairly restrictive when it comes to what we might be able to use the funding for. More restrictive than the CARES Act was, in fact. Some of that money we're able to use for public safety salaries and things, and we can't use any of this ARPA money for that. The 5 main categories are to support public health expenditures. For us, what that would mean is we could use it to buy personal protective equipment, masks, hand sanitizer, if we had more operations like the fire department, potentially things that would help them. To address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency. That doesn't relate to the city. In our case, that's more available for state programs than it would be for anything for the city. Replace lost public sector revenue. That doesn't apply to us. There are certain thresholds you have to meet, and we didn't see a downturn in revenue through the COVID pandemic. And so then provide premium pay for essential workers. We don't really have what qualify as essential workers, which are healthcare, or if we had employees who were dedicated primarily to the pandemic. And then the last category then is invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. I'll start with the last one first. Broadband sounded great as we're looking at our own potential foray into fiber, except that it really is geared toward rural areas and only available to communities that don't have more than a 25 megabyte connection. So because we do broadly through our community, none of that funding is available. So that pretty much leaves us with being able to use it for water projects, stormwater projects, and sewer projects. Of course, what that means is that, none of this revenue can go into the capital projects fund or the general fund that are otherwise funded with property tax and sales tax. So we can't use it for streets, we can't use it for vehicle replacement, we can't use it for any of those, and we certainly can't use it for any operating needs. So some of the things that we have identified, and tonight I'm looking for some direction on a couple of items. The first is the Utah League of Cities and Towns, who, I'm going to back up just a little bit. This was supposed to come with no strings attached other than the guidelines, but the state legislature passed a law at the end of the session requiring cities and counties to come up with a plan on how they were going to expend the funds, or they would withhold Class B and C road funds. And so they're looking at the league as the organization to help figure out and report on how funds are being spent, in addition to the fact that the league, almost all of the information that we're looking for and clarification, we frequently go to the league and ask for clarifying questions. So the league wants to hire a temporary employee to provide technical assistance. They've created an allocation formula, and for Bountiful, over the 2 years, it would be $5,000, a one-time payment of $5,000, $2,500 a year. So really not much of an allocation, and staff would recommend that we do that. The second request that we've received was from South Davis Sewer District for $160,000. You may or may not be aware, South Davis Sewer District has in their capital project fund right now a $50 million nutrient removal program. It's to meet federal clean water standards. They have to put this basically this treatment facility in on their wastewater end of the plant. The project's already budgeted, but what they're asking for is, because there is a state grant program that I'll talk about in a minute available, they would like to request from all of the cities within the sewer district a portion of some money to be able to match toward a $5 million request they're going to make to the state. They're asking the cities collectively and the county to contribute $1 million, and they are breaking that request up by the percentage of funding that we received through ARPA. So the request for the county received $63 million in ARPA funds. They're asking the county to provide about $637,000. Bountiful's request is $160,000, and then it goes down from there based upon how much money the other communities around us received. I met with Dal Wayment about this and asked him a few questions, one of which was, is this already budgeted for? And he said yes. And I said, well, then if you receive the grant funding from the state and from us, what does that mean for your rates? And he said, well, what that means is that this would postpone or forestall entirely a future property tax increase from the district. It would really postpone it, but because there would be some significant savings to them. So we're hopeful that they'd be able, if we contribute, they'll be able to use those matching funds and get some state funding from to help pay for that project. On the city side, and I'm sorry I can't show this up here, so you'll just have to take your own notes, but we have already identified in our capital plan $2.5 to $3 million need to replace Mill Creek Reservoir and pump station. For those of you that have been involved with the water budget for a few years, that'll sound familiar. It's been on the 10-year capital plan for at least 6 or 7 years now, and the plan is to replace that in the next, I believe, 2 years. And so the timing is really right for us to be able to use that funding. Tonight on your agenda is a $300,000 request to upgrade our SCADA system. This funding would be available to pay for that. We have a $115,000 request for a future year for emergency mobile generators for the water department. This would allow us, in the event of an emergency, if we have a power outage or we need to get we need to activate our pumps at any of our different wells to take a generator, be able to provide water to the community and/or put into the system. $300,000 for the Calder well screen and gravel pack. You're going to see a request for that project already going tonight too. And then in our storm drain fund, we have $2.86 million for 11 projects between 2022 and 2025. So there are plenty of needs within the city. Even though this isn't something that would potentially offset, say, the property tax increase that we're suggesting, because we can't use it for any of those needs. What this would do is this would have a very significant impact on when we would, again, need to raise water rates or stormwater rates. A big component of the rate structure coming up in the future for water is the replacement of this reservoir and pump station. So we would see some advantages there, which is great. There's a lot more guidance. I think there's like a 73-page document from the Treasury Department that provides a lot more details on how things can be spent. But we've identified these as likely eligible needs at this point and uses. Tonight, I guess what I'm looking for is some direction on your thoughts about providing the $5,000 to the league and what your thoughts are about the $160,000 request for the sewer district. The timing on that is this. I mentioned a grant. So the state put away at the beginning of the year $50 million of ARPA money as matching funds towards project like all of these. We'll have the opportunity to apply to the state for matching funds beginning the 15th of August, and that window closes the 16th of September. And then there will be a selection committee, and then they'll actually allocate funds in November. So the sewer district would like to get a commitment so that they can put an application together by August 15th, which would be before our next council meeting. We could, with a commitment, we could subsequently do the interlocal agreement that we would need. But those are the two requests tonight, and then love your thoughts on any other needs, if you've heard of needs or if you have thoughts about ARPA funding, what that can or can't be used for. This would be a good time to have that conversation.
So the 2.6 that we just received, that's what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, and we're talking about how much would the sewer?
160,000. And it's worth pointing out that when we received CARES Act money, we shared some of that with the fire district, but the sewer district didn't receive any funding, and they didn't receive any American Rescue Plan Act money either. So,
Do you think that if they get this money, there's any chance that they could change their plans about their property tax increase that's proposed?
what Dal told me is this would affect future property tax increases. They actually already approved their property tax increase.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the bill to let people know that it's going to go into effect, but they've already approved it 6 months ago.
If I could maybe add some color commentary, because my day job means I spend a little bit of time in this area. As the state has contemplated the $50 million of money they're putting out there as a carrot to incentivize cities to spend monies in ways the state thinks are appropriate for the congressional funds that were sent to all of us, they've designed the grants so that if entities pool multiple local governments together, it looks like the guidance will give them bonus points towards being able to reach into that pool of $50 million. So to a certain extent, it incentivizes entities like the sewer district to build a stronger application by asking the cities within their district to chip in and help boost their score as they reach back up to the state and say, we'd like, what did you say their total ask was going to be, $5 million from the state's matching grant program. So if they're able to show that Bountiful and several other cities in the counties participated, in theory, they would compete better against a different sewer district in a different part of the state.
No, I think that makes sense. I think it shows that those cities are more committed, and so thanks for that background. I'm inclined to say yes, unless any of my colleagues have huge concerns, especially if it just helps build our infrastructure overall. And I personally appreciate being able to flush my toilets. So,
It's a big deal. Just maybe a comment is that I had a long conversation last week with, it's Representative Jerry Stevenson, isn't it? Rather than Senator Jerry Stevenson. I had a pretty long conversation with him. He's in appropriations still? Is that what he's?
He's the Senate Appropriations
Yeah,
Chair.
yeah, Chair of the Appropriations. One thing he said to me that I thought was really interesting, he said, there's money available in the state, and and they prefer when there are partnerships, they tend to take priority over just single request needs. And so these kinds of things for the sewer district, which we're really fortunate. We have Wasatch Resource Recovery, which is just an absolutely, we could talk about that for hours, how great that is down there. But the infrastructure needs down there are really big, and we're very fortunate to have this facility here, both facilities on our west side. So I think that by giving the sewer district that money, they're much more likely to get the funds that they want from the state. Dal Wayman has made that pretty clear, and with that just helps us down the road with our taxes here in Bountiful. So, just a point.
When is your guess of when we would be able to replace the Mill Creek Reservoir pump station?
So
We had,
we have between 3 and 4 years, we're not entirely sure yet, to spend the funds that we receive. We hadn't anticipated doing this quite yet because of the many other needs that we have, but if we're going to receive the funds for it, we make it a priority. I'm going to put Lloyd on the spot a little bit to say, and we have our water director here too. I think I saw Craig come in, who could probably who could give you an answer on when we could expect to see that.
I would guess at the earliest, we'd be looking at 18 months. We need to work with the school district on some property issues. We need to do a structural design, go through the review process with the Division of Drinking Water. It's going to take a minute to spool up for this. Craig and I will probably need a cot and a sleeping bag and a nightlight.
but it definitely will happen sooner than it would have happened.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Would it be, are any of the projects on this kind of the city potential list things that we might also be able to apply to the state for matching grants? Which of those that you mentioned do you think are our best candidates for matching grant potential?
And I might look at Galen too for this, and he's looked at the criteria probably in more detail than I have. But personally, I think our best opportunity is the Mill Creek Reservoir and Pump Station, rather than piecing together some of the smaller things like the multiple 11 projects in the city storm drain. Galen, do you have a different opinion?
No, I know that they gear the state program off of the ARPA program, and so they're pointing to the EPA's two divisions, the Drinking Water Division and their other division. If the projects meet their requirements, then they're eligible. And so I've reached out to them for just some preliminary look at things. They're favorable to projects like we've mentioned about SCADA, the SCADA project we're after, the reservoir, and some of the things. So depending on the specifics of what's planned for the project, they would entertain doing it. So I think it would probably qualify under both programs.
Thank you. So, given the time, it sounds like I'm hearing from Kate and Kendall and also,
I actually have one more question,
Okay.
if I may. I know, I'm sorry. And you may not know the answer to this, but of all of the cities that the sewer district is asking for funds, will there be any ramifications if 50% of cities contribute and 50% don't? Will the cities who don't have to make up financially in other places, or will we be covering their costs?
At this point, it sounds like there wouldn't be a request to come back and cover the other cities' costs, so our assessment wouldn't go up. Just from what Dal told me too, the other cities, a couple of them have already taken action and said yes. Everybody that they've talked to so far, including the county, has been so far favorable. Given favorable idea that this is a reasonable thing, just to give you a level of comfort.
Are we okay here, all of us? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Ned, you feel like you've got direction? And we're good. Okay. Well, we're not a timeout. All right. This is Bountiful City Council meeting, Tuesday, July 27th, 2021. We did have a work session at 6:30, and we appreciate all of you and our city council women being all here. We're a little bit after 7, and this is our regular session. We do excuse Chris Simonson and Richard Higginson, who are both out of town, but the 3 councilwomen make a majority and a council, so we can proceed. We appreciate the attendance. Let's start out by having a pledge, and I've asked Seth Wright if he would lead that. Please, thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I'll look out and see if I can see Pastor Josiah Walker. Oh, thank you. Pastor, please come forward. He's from the Redeeming Life Church and it's called Vocational Pastor.
I'm bivocational, yes.
Yes, and we miss Pastor Pless.
Yes.
And he's been here many times with us, and we welcome you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. It's an honor to be part of the meeting today and to say an opening prayer for us tonight. So I'd like to pray for us now.
Please.
Dear Lord, I thank you that we have this opportunity to gather together as the citizens of this great city in Bountiful. Lord, I thank you for our mayor, Mayor Lewis, and our talented councilmen and councilwomen who give so selflessly of their time to serve this city and their citizens. Lord, I pray that you would just bless them, watch over them, protect our leaders, Lord Jesus. I thank you for them, and I pray tonight as they listen to concerns from our fellow citizens and they hear issues and they tackle issues at hand for our city, Lord, that you would give them wisdom and discernment on how to best lead our city, Lord Jesus. I thank you for all that you're doing, and I just pray for wisdom on them tonight. And Lord, I pray, last but not least, that you would send us rain. Lord, that you would send rain that would end this drought, that would fill our lakes and reservoirs, and would take care of our crops and our people. I thank you for all that you're doing in our city. I pray that Bountiful would be a city that people love to come to work in, to live in, and to play because of who we are and what we are in the community. We worship you, and we thank you, Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Pastor, there couldn't have been a more perfect prayer. Thank you. We're really glad. We hope you come again. Thanks. By the way, so where is the Redeeming Church? Will you help remind us your address?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, we're at 696 East, or South 400 East, right there across from the Lindquist Mortuary. So,
Yeah, okay, perfect.
awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. So there is public comment time now, and as some of you already know, we have 10 minutes of public time, 2 minutes per person, and there's a little timer right here, and we're really happy to have you participate. So we're turning the time over to you. Please give your name and your address. Time is yours. Yes, please.
Scott Albertson, 1488 North, 350 West in Bountiful. I've got a few items. I'm not sure how this works, but I'll spit them off. You can answer, or you answer later. I don't know.
Normally, that's how we do it. You make a comment, then if there's some things that the staff can answer, following the meeting, they're happy to do so.
Okay, so my concern is on 1000 North, the road work that's being done and the amount of time it's taking and the damage that it's causing to vehicles, and it's worse than driving off-road up by the B. It's potholes that my car bottoms out on. Second thing is also on 1000 North is I've heard there's no plans for an actual crosswalk, and there's lots of children, including my own, that will be going across that street where people are getting hit. So I don't know if there's something that we can put in the plan to make a crosswalk that is either a flashing light or something when it's not attended by a crossing guard. Going on to roads to the north, which is the neighborhood I live in, the road humps are so big that my bumper fell off because it's scraped. People are getting stuck. They've tried to fix it, but what's the plan for the future to take those down from gutter to peak 2.5 feet? You can't get out of the driveway without scraping, which I know lots of roads in Bountiful are well taken care of, but it feels like we're in the least affluent neighborhood in Bountiful and we're forgotten. Our curbs are all busted up. They're all misaligned. Nothing drains. We've got road problems. The water supply frequently breaks in the night, and they're digging up the road, and then they never come back and patch it. So it's just gravel. So I don't know what the plan is for future on repairing. Thanks for your time.
No, that's good. Did you have any, finish your question, please, Scott?
What's the plan for the future to get those repairs done and get the roads back to a safe, drivable way with proper drainage in the gutters and sidewalks? Half the streets don't have sidewalks, so when you walk, and you're walking at an angle, but what's the future plan?
Thank you, Scott. Scott, Charles back here, he'll raise his hand right back there. Yeah, he might be able to answer at least some of your questions today if you wait till after. Thank you. Anyone else?
Jade Valdez, 1263 South, 925 West in Woods Cross. And I present to you 215 signatures supporting the following statement. My name is Jade Valdez. I'm Ambassador Girl Scout here in Bountiful, Troop 2511, and I am currently working on my Girl Scout Gold Award for expanding athletic opportunities for girls here in Utah. I've played softball for 10 years, and this fall I will play for Lewis and Clark College in Oregon. In Utah, girls softball at the recreation level is at a constant struggle. Leagues often do not have enough girls sign up. They are forced to join with other cities, and this makes access for girls harder. Because of this, high school teams here in Bountiful and Woods Cross struggle to fill their rosters every year. The South Davis Recreation Center utilizes one softball field at Reservoir Park for their spring softball league. This softball field is too small for 12U division and older to use, resulting in the use of baseball fields and fields in other cities. A few months ago, I tried creating an agreement with both cities for the league to use other fields. This idea was rejected as the fields are occupied with boys' baseball leagues during the same season. Without equal access to field space in Woods Cross and Bountiful, the softball league struggles to fill their rosters each and every year. Reservoir Park is also often under-maintained by Bountiful City during the off-season. The softball field should be well kept for the community to use and for girls to practice on. I hope to raise awareness of these matters and bring it to the attention of city leaders in the community. My hope is that they will consider building a softball field reserved for the use of recreation fast-pitch leagues for girls at the newly purchased Bond of Washington Park. By providing equal access to field space, more girls in the community will be given the opportunity to experience recreational softball. Softball has gifted me with endless opportunities and has built me into the person I am today. I strongly believe that recreation softball builds character, confidence, and community. Without the resources in our community, there is nowhere to start for girls who wish to play softball. Thank you.
Well, you must have timed that pretty good there, Jay. So we'll be able to get some answers for you, and if you need to give that paper. Let me ask you a question. If I remember right, is the softball field and Little League field the same size? Is that right?
No. So the softball field at Reservoir Park is utilized by the 10U age division and younger.
Oh, okay.
That is
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if there's no one else, then we will close the comment period. And we will go on to consider approval of the minutes of the previous meeting held on July 13th, 2021. Kate, did you get that? Did we get that fixed or?
Yes, I emailed our city recorder and let her know that there was a date that was incorrect in the minutes. It's on page 4 of the minutes, line 32. I believe she's corrected it on the online copy to be August 27th.
Okay, very good. Any other corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve these minutes.
Thanks, Kendall.
Second?
Thanks, Millie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, now is council reports, but I'm going to start out this time. I want to say something about our two athletes that have had incredible exposure here in the last couple of weeks. One, we have Sam Merrill, who I heard it on the radio today. They think that Sam, that played here at Bountiful High, played at Mueller Park, and then played at Bountiful High School, and then at Utah State, that he, excuse me, what did I say, Mueller Park? I meant Mill Creek. I'm pointing down here because that's where all my kids went, but over here to Mill Creek. And that he is the only true Utahn that was born here and lived here that has an NBA ring. I mean, we've had other players that have played for the universities that have won NBA rings, but none of them from here. So this is a big deal. And you know what? His aunt is married to my oldest son. So I'm promising you that we're going to have that here, and we'll tell you when, and we'll see that NBA ring. That's really a big deal. So we'll have fun getting him here, and we'll do some special things because that's amazing. And of course, then we have Jake Gibb, who, if you watched the volleyball, his partner gets ill, and he has to he pulls a fellow from Colorado that he knew, and they beat the Italians. I don't know exactly when it was, but I watched it last night, and he's 44 years old. Also went to Bountiful. Played golf on the golf team at Bountiful. With my second oldest son. So we have had some really amazing contributions to the Olympics and to the NBA Finals. So, well, good, I got to make a comment this time about things. So, hey, Kate, we'll start with you for council reports.
Thanks. I agree. It's exciting to have not just fellow countrymen and countrywomen to cheer on, but to have actual Bountiful natives is something that's kind of fun to look for in the games. So I've enjoyed that as well. My council report is new as of a couple hours ago. As my colleagues on the council know, outdoor recreation is kind of a passion of mine. And I was notified just a little bit ago that I will be representing the League of Cities and Towns on the new Outdoor Adventure Commission for the state that hopefully will mean we'll get to have some input on outdoor activities and outdoor rec grants and things like that.
Awesome. That is.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that assignment.
That's really good news. That kind of goes along with our trails and everything else that we're doing that's up on our mountainside. So that's terrific. Kendall.
Thanks, Mayor. We have opportunities for you to come to City Hall 3 times this week. So you're here tonight for City Council meeting, and then tomorrow night, it's Meet the Candidate night at 6:30. And then Thursday night, there's a property tax discussion at 7 here at City Hall. So I hope we'll see you 3 nights in a row. And if you want something later for your calendar, another reason to come, if you're a Bountiful business owner, the Bountiful Business Symposium is September 22nd in the morning. We'll be here from 7:45 and be done by about 10.
Thank you, Kendall. Please come tomorrow night. It'll really be fun. It'll just be Bob and I and Kendall and just like yelling at each other and stuff like that. It'll be really fun. So please, everybody come. No, it'll be really good for you to kind of get to know I think you know Kendall and I a little more than you do Bob, that you're going to get, Bob's been to one of these before. And I guess we're just the only three on the docket, is that right? Yeah, I think so. I don't, hope it's not a 2-hour session there. We're all invited. Okay, Millie.
I have nothing to report.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, well, then we'll go on to consider approval of expenditures greater than $1,000 paid June 28th, July 5th, and 12th, 2021.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
As I was reviewing those. Galen, this question is probably for you.
Okay.
On the expenditures paid on June 28th, there's a number for irrigation parts for Washington Park. In conversations I'd had with our parks director, he had mentioned that we still had a bit to be resolved between the city and the school district on who was going to pay for installing the irrigation system, as they were supposed to leave us with grass at the transaction. So I note that these are expenditures we've paid for the irrigation parts, but do we have a plan for the district to help us share in that final cost?
I don't know if I'm probably the best one to answer on that piece. I think the understanding I have is that we were to fix anything that is being watered now so we can keep it going. As far as other plans or agreements, I'm not certain on that one.
We can certainly explore that with them. Because of the timing of when we were going to do the park, as I talked with Craig Carter and as Brock talked with their staff, and we weren't sure where the sprinkler system ultimately was going to need to be based upon the improvements that we haven't designed yet, where they go. We sort of decided jointly not to have them spend, taxpayer dollars that might have to just be torn out and put back in when we did the park. So there's probably a little overlap of where they may have needed to finish something to maintain what's currently there, but we sort of jointly made the decision that it didn't make sense to put in infrastructure that might just have to be torn out and replaced, if that helps.
That's helpful. I just was hoping that we would follow up to make sure the district left us with everything they promised at the close of the property.
So, yeah, we will follow up.
With that, I'm happy to make a motion unless there's someone else has any questions. Make a motion to approve the expenditures paid greater than $1,000 on June 28th, July 5th, and July 12th.
In a second.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Chief Ed Beeler, but I didn't see Chief. Is he, that next item?
I've got this one for him.
Okay, thanks,
He
Gary.
wasn't able to be here tonight, and I apologize for not letting you know that I'm taking that over. He did not leave me his badge, let alone his gun or taser, so apologize. I'm not completely representing him like I would like to. We always ask if we can borrow the taser, and he always says no. So, this item, council and mayor, is a continuation of previous discussions we've had about our public safety answering point, or our dispatch center. There are 4 dispatch centers in Davis County. Clearfield, Davis County, Bountiful, who dispatches fire and police for all of South Davis County, and Layton City. Over the last few years, there's been interest, particularly from the legislature, to make sure that where there are multiple dispatch centers, that we are limiting the number of calls that are transferred as opposed to just automatically connected. As somebody, for example, drives through the Bountiful area and then moves into the county area and then to Layton, all in an effort to improve response times. So we've been meeting with the county as county dispatch centers for a couple of years actively now, and this issue's come up repeatedly in the 8 years that I've been here, and have determined that we're going to be able to have a shared server that will allow all of us to be on the same software format, which will eliminate in the county the need, almost entirely eliminate the need for transferring calls. In addition to that, this shared server and software will allow all of the public safety agencies to have shared access to records, which will help each of our detective agencies as we're following through on crimes and things like that. What we have before you tonight is the interlocal agreement. that sets forth our willingness to work together with the vendor who is Motorola, and that we would jointly share this server and software, and then formalizes the agreement that we would all have to share both in the installation cost and in the maintenance costs. And it also identifies different various roles and responsibilities for the different agencies. For example, the server will probably be hosted at Davis County, but will be overseen by Layton. We have certain standards and procedures that we're going to live by, and this formalizes all of those items. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. Otherwise, look to you for action.
I was curious about the Bountiful share of the cost of the shared server and what we anticipate any ongoing costs would be that we would bear with the other entities going forward. And if you could maybe compare that to if we were to try and host the server entirely on our own.
So we currently have a server for our own needs. This would allow us to retire that, and so any shared cost would be hopefully less expensive than hosting our own server needs. And then the other major portion of the cost is the software cost for Motorola. After the implementation costs, they've given us costs for the next few years, and I believe it's about half of what we're currently paying for maintenance of the dispatch software that we have now. So we're pleased that it won't cost us any more and may actually save us some dollars moving forward.
Is there any overlapping time where we still have to keep running the old EForce system, or we'll maintain two record systems?
There will be a short overlap time period before we go live, and then there may be some maintenance with EForce for records. We already have those legacy systems now, because one thing that we've determined is you can only start with as good a data as you have, and it's really hard to convert data from different systems into a brand new system because everybody inputs it a little bit differently. So every time we get a new dispatch software, we have to maintain the records from the old system, and we will probably do that for a period of time with EForce.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'd like to move that we approve Resolution 2021-15, authorizing a public safety system interlocal agreement.
Thank you. A second?
Second?
Thank you, Millie. Any further discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes. Thanks, Gary. Curtis?
Thanks, Mayor. This item is located at 390 South Main Street. It's a site plan for City Creek Construction Offices. This was reviewed by our Planning Commission a few weeks ago, and they forwarded a positive recommendation on a 6-0 vote. If you guys are familiar with this site, this is the old DFCU building located on Main Street in Force South. DFCU about a year and a half ago moved out to 5th West, and so this building has remained vacant since that time. City Creek Construction is proposing to redevelop this site. What you see in orange is what they're going to be either removing or adding to. So they'll remove that, the canopy, obviously the ATM machine that's here. And then in addition to that, they will be bumping the building out to Main Street. So it'll touch the sidewalk, and that's what you'll see on this picture here. So this red is what's being added to the building. The blue is the existing building. In addition to they won't be touching any of the parking. So as far as what you see currently with parking, it will greatly exceed what they need for this site by about 15 stalls. What they will be changing is this access here on 4 South is a wide access, if you're familiar with the site. They are going to shorten that access and then add some additional landscaping. In addition to this landscaping, they'll also add some more here on the south end of the building and then kind of mirror it on the north side of the building. All of the trees that you see here will remain on site, both along Main Street and 4 South. These 2 trees, they will need to be trimmed as the building starts moving a little closer to them, but they will work with our Parks Director to ensure that they don't die in the process, that they're trimmed appropriately. This is what, well, let me take you to this slide here. This is what you're going to see as far as this building. So this is the corner of Main Street and 4th South. Here on the corner, you'll see a board or a board-formed concrete pylon. I got that right. It's a very expensive type of process to put this in. As we've reviewed this type of architecture, it does fit into what is the standards of the downtown zone. We like that it is being pushed closer to Main Street. You'll see a lot of glass here along Main Street, which is appropriate for there so that it kind of opens up the office and that Main Street feel that we want. They also have the recesses, the bump outs that are required in the zone. And as staff has reviewed this with the commission is forward a positive recommendation of approval for this site plan with the conditions listed in the staff report.
Any questions from the council? If not, I'd look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve and grant preliminary and final architectural approval with the staff recommendations.
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and that motion is positive. So, Brian, I take it that you're pretty happy about that? He is, okay. That's good.
I am too, we're semi-related.
Oh, there we go. All right. So we'll, Curtis, you have another item. Actually, you have 2 or 3 or 4 items.
All right, the next item is in the Renaissance Town Development. So we're talking about this lot here on the corner of 1800 South and Main Street. It will be a kind of a sister building to this lot right here. This lot was approved with the site plan by the council last June, I do believe, is when that approval took place. And so this will kind of mirror that development that was approved. Just to kind of walk you through this proposal. This is the building that, or the site that was approved last June. This is the building that we're talking about here. It's going to be a 26-unit building. It will have 12 two-bedrooms and 14 one-bedroom units. You'll see that they have 26 parking stalls that are underneath the building, so it's the parking will be on the ground floor, and then there will be 3 levels above it. They'll have an additional 8 stalls here along that will be shared in this parking lot with the building to the north, and then an additional 14 spaces out here on the future Renaissance Town Drive. Now, as development happens in Renaissance, what the developer will need to do is keep track of parking. So once we get to the final building, the final development here, that final building will be built to what is left as far as parking. So The developer will keep a running tab of the parking for this site to ensure that overall we're meeting that criteria.
But just to interject, every building that's approved will be looking at parking at that
Yes.
time as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, thank you. Here's some just additional floor plans of the units. And each one of these will have their own balcony. The top floor has a shared space for those in the building. This is a rendering from Maine in 1800 is what you'll see. They've shown this in mustard yellow. We've been assured that this won't be the final color. It's more just to show the architecture a little better. They've assured us that they won't just rent out to people with white pickup trucks. That's more to just show what's available there.
So if it's not going to be mustard, what color is it?
We'll have the applicant have to tell you what he's thinking. But as we've looked through this with the Planning Commission, one last slide is just their landscaping that I wanted to show you. So they'll be adding street trees along Main and 1800 in addition to on-site trees. The landscaping does meet the Renaissance Town development that has been approved. And the Planning Commission did review this, and they forwarded a positive recommendation on a 6-0 vote to approve this site plan with the conditions listed in the staff report.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Well, I was kind of interested in the color.
Yeah, gotcha.
I mean,
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I motion that we approve the preliminary final architectural and site plan review at 1791 Renaissance Town Drive with the caveat that not all residents have to have a white pickup truck.
Oh.
And with the recommended, with the recommendations by the Planning Commission and staff.
Thank you.
second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. This is a big deal. This is really, really a big deal. To have the Renaissance Center starting here. When will we break ground on that? Can you help us at all with that, Brian?
I can. So, I have to give you a little chronology because I normally don't move this slow.
For those that are online, could we maybe ask if Brian could come up? I'm sure all of our listeners are
I
excited.
think
at
it'd
the
really
timeline.
be helpful. I mean, this is a great process.
I didn't think I had a talking part tonight.
Besides, you can tell me what color it's going to be.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the first building, which is Lot 12, the one to the north of this, the 30 units there, we have been ready to submit for permits for 5 months, and we've been waiting on a plat that the master developer needed to file. Because of that, you passed an extension in our approvals, so probably 2 months ago. That building, plats, I signed them today. So we anticipate about 4 weeks for permitting and start 1st of September. Okay. This building, because we had the ordinance revision, which took quite a bit of time, and honestly, we had this ready to submit last year, but we couldn't submit it because we needed the ordinance fixed first or reviewed. This building will be optimistic 60 days behind because we have to generate all the construction documents, do the finance package, and then get a permit. So right now on the one north of it, we have our finance package, we have permit documents. Really, we need a plat filed so the city will let me submit for a permit, and then as quickly as the building official gets us a permit, we'll start. I'm allocating him about 4 weeks.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Really,
And
that's a really big deal.
I like
you.
mustard. No, that's for contrast only. Okay, that's just to give you some contrast when you see it. Colors, we're trending we had the whole period of the monotones that you've seen all over the valley. I never liked that, but the good news is you're trending into more wood tones and taupes. And honestly, I don't have the whole color palette set for that building yet, but that we'll be setting that as we do the design elements. But I would assume you're going to still see some grays and whites, but we're going to be pulling in. There's some siding elements that would lend itself really good to. It's a product called Wood Tone, which is a three-coated hardy type product, and that brings in a wood tone. It's just, for me, it's the white and black building with xeriscape is hard for somebody my age, even though we've been doing that. So we're trying to get a little more humanity back in our color schemes.
Thank you for humoring me. I was just curious if you were going with the Pantone color of the year or not.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Brian.
Thank you.
We're really-
I have done that mustard once. I never did it again.
Well, like I said, this is a great breakthrough.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your help with that. Curtis, item number 9.
Yes, so this is a follow-up to what you guys reviewed in your last meeting, adopting a new regulation allowing private recycling services within the city. So Momentum Recycling is proposing to offer a glass recycling service. And in your packet, you could see the conditions that they will need to meet and that they are offering. So they'll do the pickup on the second Tuesday of each month. As far as their cleanup, if there's spills out of the containers or and onto the street, the driver will be cleaning that up. The cans will be placed out kind of in the same pattern as our garbage. The night before, they'll be put out onto the curb, and then the homeowner will bring them back up that day after they have been picked up. They will be a similar type of design, the containers, as what you would see currently with the garbage pickup, just with the condition that we don't have any kind of loud colors, that they meet the standards that way. They do have liability insurance that they have turned into the city. This will be reviewed annually by the planning department with recommendations back to city council. And you also see in the report that there is a contract that we need to amend with Ace Recycling as part of this. Staff does recommend that the city council approve the private glass recycling service to operate within the public right-of-way.
So moved.
Second?
In a second, any further discussion?
I just had one question. How long will it take to negotiate that contract with ACE?
So it's done as included in this packet, and as you would approve it tonight, it's just a matter of getting it to them and however long it takes for them to sign off on it. Typically, private companies can move much faster than government, so it could be a day, it could be a week.
Right?
You good? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And again, Curtis, I think you have one more, do you? Is that right?
Yep, last
Yes,
one.
please.
All right. So earlier this year, we presented the Trails Master Implementation Plan at City Council, kind of giving you a overview of the trails that we want to construct and design over the next several years. This is the last trail for the year 2021 that was on that master plan. This will actually fit into the fiscal year 2022 budget. The trail that we're talking about tonight is a trail that would connect Barton Creek and Stone Creek here to the north. So it'll be in this area that is highlighted. And this is all on Bountiful City property, so we have a little bit more flexibility. We don't need to worry about Forest Service approval or that type of thing. The Forest Service boundary is about right in here. So as long as we stay within that shaded area, we'll remain all on city property. As staff reviewed this with the Trails Committee, we felt that it would be better to have an experienced trail builder design and build this trail rather than us trying to design it with volunteers. So we submitted an RFP to the Trail Builders website and to the state website, and we did receive 3 different proposals back. One was from IMBA, who is currently working on about 6 trails from, well, all around the Mueller Park and North Canyon area for us. One was from Single Track Trails, and the last one was from Avid Trails. As we reviewed each one, we felt like Avid provided the best, not only the cheapest as far as cost, but their design, their proposed cost for design was a little bit more robust than some of the others. Avid is currently working with the county on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail they're currently going between Wild Rose Park in North Salt Lake and connecting it to Mueller Park this year. So they know the terrain very well. They're already here working. So what you see in your packet is the proposed cost. It is about $89,000 was their base cost. They did have some additional costs on top of that, and as we reviewed that, we felt we would probably need a bridge to either in Ward Canyon or Holbrook Canyon, as the trail needs to cross one of those creeks, in addition to signage, so that it takes up the total anticipated cost would be just a little over $97,000. We have, and we feel that this would just add an additional leg to the network that we need and that we want to build over the next several years. So we do recommend that Avid Trails be awarded this contract for the connection between Barton and or Holbrook Canyon and Ward Canyon.
Good. Any questions? Not, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes. Thank you. And Craig, I think you're up, my friend.
Can I ask a quick question? Are we supposed to be voting or just you?
Just us.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, but I was like,
Yep. Craig,
Question.
that is a good question, though. It's nice. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me here this
Glad
evening.
to have you here, Craig.
First item of a couple is a purchase of a new SCADA system. Our current SCADA system is getting a little bit old. It runs off of a Windows 7 operating system, which we all know how computers work. It kind of goes obsolete eventually. The system that we've had it for 20 plus years, since before I started. And that's currently provided by RCS. The SCADA is a very crucial point in our water system. It helps us control the pumps and motors when they go on and off. We're able to do those off-site. It records all the data that we need for reports for the state, reports to the county. We can control our chlorine and fluoride. So we have got 4 different bids. One of them was from RCS. That's significantly lower than the other bids, but that's with our current provider. That would be to put the 3 sites that we have got in the last couple of years onto that system. But with that kind of being obsolete, eventually it's kind of just there. So we did a bid from SKM, door set controls, and APE, which is advanced pumps and equipment. With its staff's recommendation that we would get approval for the door set controls SCADA system for the $299,707. If I could answer any questions?
Any questions?
I have a quick question, maybe it's not quick. With this new system, we did that audit that helped direct power usage for the pumps and make sure that we're more efficient. Would this system help in better utilizing that study to make our pumps more efficient?
Yes, we're actually have started implementing some of that now. Just First East, last week, we put a VFD in there, and that's a variable frequency drive.
I'm so glad you explained what that was, because I thought something else.
That gives us the ability to either have that run at max capacity, or we can bump that down to 600 gallons a minute at half capacity, and power charges go way down. So we have started implementing that, and this system will allow us to access those VFDs from the computer. So, I mean, even if we're, at work and we see that there's that need to turn something down because we're getting close to filling up a reservoir, we can shut it down, or high demand times of the year like this during the summer, if we've got to ramp it up, we can kick it up. I mean, even while we're sitting here at council meeting, so.
It's amazing.
Great, thank you.
If there are no other questions, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve the purchase of the Dorset Control SCADA system.
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next item, Mr. Christensen.
All right, next item, radios for our trucks, and for one at the office and one up at the treatment plant. You guys all know we've had a few windstorms lately, and even an earthquake that has come through. This is just one of those things that would help us better communicate as a water department during these times, and even be able to communicate with the street department, power department, things of that nature. Part of this bid, we only got the one bid. The plan was that we would utilize what Charles and the street department already has in place. And with that, we would put an antenna on the south side of town at one of our reservoir sites that would better help make the communication for everybody that much better, because they've kind of got a dead zone over there currently. So that's why we just have that one bid in there. So it'd be staff recommendation to approve the $41,620 for the UCS wireless radios and antenna.
Perfect. If there are no questions, I'll look for a motion.
So moved?
And a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. One more there,
All
Mr.
right.
Craig.
All right. So this one's kind of a ask for forgiveness. So,
Hey, we've had those before.
so back in April, we had our Calder well site, which is kind of one of those topics that we have every now and then. It's a crucial part in our system. And in April, we had a bearing go out in the submersible motor that is down 400 feet in the ground. And that in turn, through the bearings up through the pump, ruined the pump. So we were unable to use the big portion of that well, which is a very vital part of the system being able to pump and supply to the south and southeast side of towns. So we had a conversation with Gary and Lloyd, and kind of got the approval to go ahead and start that ball rolling. And so we did. And during that process of pulling the pump and motor, found that the casing was bad. So we actually had to replace that casing too while we were in there. it wouldn't have lasted through this pump. So we ended up replacing the casing, the pump, and the motor in this well, and it's all done now. The work is done. It's been online for a month now, and it has saved us this drought year, so.
So we just get to approve it for you then?
Yes,
Great,
yes.
Good. Do I have a motion to do that?
Motion to approve. and-
Second?
And
Thank
apply
you. And a
forgiveness.
second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you
Thank-
for keeping us in fresh water.
Hey, Craig,
Yeah,
you.
of course.
Yeah, we're glad you're here.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for all that you're doing.
I appreciate you guys for helping us out and
Yeah,
allowing us to keep doing it, so.
yeah. It's awesome.
All right, thank you.
Yes. So Clint?
Yeah.
You got the final item.
Yeah, this is consideration of a franchise agreement with Teleport Communications America LLC, which is really just AT&T. We had
All that.
a previous franchise agreement with them that was approved 10 years ago under TCG Utah, which was also AT&T. I have to just share a quick story that I feel a little validated because I called their representative in New Jersey last week just to clarify which entity we were approving. And he was kind of thinking out loud, and he said, I don't know. These change so much, I don't know which is which. I'm going to have to get back to you. And I said, that's all I wanted to hear. You can't even keep track of who you are. So, but nonetheless, it is AT&T, and they have different subsidiaries that they use. And it's the exact same agreement that was approved by the council 10 years ago. It just needs to be renewed. There are no changes. It was in your packet. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. The only changes that I did make were just to update the names of some people as well as our address.
Good. Then I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve Resolution 2021-14.
Thank you.
Second.
And a second from Millie. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And how about a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, thanks for all of you coming. We appreciate it. I think this is the first time I've ever been here when I've had all three of you.